Welcome to the Las Vegas Review-Journal Judicial Primary Debates. Here's your host, Steve Sebelius.
Welcome to the Review-Journal's judicial debate for family court in Department M. Tonight, we're going to hear from 4 candidates who are seeking that seat. We're going to start with opening statements from the candidates. We're going to go alphabetically to start. So let's get started with Lynn Hughes.
As an attorney, I have been a family lawyer and guardianship lawyer for most of my career, with some estate planning and probate thrown in as well. As part of that, I've been a pro tem hearing master for the Clark County Family Court and the Justice Court for the past 18 years. Family court, guardianship, dependency, civil commitments, also traffic and small claims, or a little bit of Judge Judy. I am currently a member of the Permanent Guardianship Commission. I was appointed by the Nevada Supreme Court a few years ago, and that commission is designed and established in order to help the guardianship individuals, those who need guardianship, to be treated fairly and try to keep their lives from being invaded too much. This department, Department M, is currently a guardianship court, and I would very much like to be the guardianship judge.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate it. Mr. Kurth.
Thank you very much. I'm put my little sign here. I'm Robert Kurth. I'm running for family court judge because I care about our community and I care about the place my family calls home and has made home. I've grown up here in the Las Vegas Valley. I'm in my 28th year of practicing law. I've been in my own practice since about 1996, where I manage others. I also currently serve as an arbitrator for the district court, and I have served as an alternate child support hearing master and a small claims court referee. I think experience is important, and I think that also deals with family experience. I have 4 children. I've been married 33 years, excuse me. My wife would get upset about that one. So almost 34 years. And my kids, I think you have to look at, the character of somebody, and I'm so thankful for my children, who one is a teacher in the school district, one is a police officer, one is a dental hygienist, and one is a college student. So we're hoping to keep that moving along. I grew up, I worked construction, I worked for steel engineers, I was a rebar fabricator and iron worker, and I've represented in my practice in the 28 years those people that come before the court every day.
All right, Mr. Kurth, we're afraid we're out of time on that opening statement, but thank you for that. Ms. Mastin.
Thank you. I'm Amy Mastin, and I'm also running for Family Court Department M. I've spent my 23-year career serving the families of Clark County, Nevada, and hope to continue to do that as a family court judge. 6.5 years ago, I was appointed by the district court judges to serve as a hearing master. I currently preside over Clark County's civil domestic violence court. My court hears upwards of 8,000 domestic violence cases a year, and that's in a county with one of the highest domestic violence homicide rates in the country, unfortunately. Prior to that, I had a private practice for 10 years where I focused exclusively on family court cases, family court issues, divorce, custody, guardianship, adoption. I was one of a handful of attorneys who was on a list of names given to foster parents who were ready to finalize their adoption of foster children. That was one of the most satisfying parts of my career. Prior to that, I worked as a deputy district attorney prosecuting child welfare cases in the juvenile dependency division.
All right, Ms. Mastin, thank you very much for that. And finally, Ms. McKellar.
Thank you, and thank you for having me for this interview today. I have a background in family law primarily. I've been practicing in Nevada for 10 years. I'm originally from the state of Wyoming. I was a member of the Professional Responsibility and Ethics Committee for years. I also conduct mediation in my office pro bono for various attorneys along the family law sector. I have litigation experience in high asset divorce cases by my experience working from prior firms. And I worked for prior firms for about 6 years in those kind of cases until I actually opened up my office in 2011. I would appreciate your vote for family court. It's a very important place. Everybody needs a voice in family court, and I appreciate the support.
All right, thank you very much for that. We'll move on to our first question. And this first question will go to Mr. Hughes first. The National Institute of Mental Health reports that 1 in 5 adults in the U.S. experience mental illness, but Nevada ranks last when it comes to mental health services. As a judge, what could you do to assist litigants in family court who are experiencing mental health problems and move those cases to resolution?
The biggest issue is recognizing that an individual has a mental health issue that has to be dealt with. Nevada has a high military, Las Vegas has a high military contingent here. We handle a lot of military divorces, people with PTSD, veterans, but there are other individuals that also have that, and many of them don't recognize or will not acknowledge that they have a mental health issue to be dealt with. And it will be part of the judge will have to be able to deal with those things with those particular individuals, including getting them counseling, having the parties attend parenting classes, or just seeking the help that they need. The law is designed to help accommodate those things and give the judges the tools to be able to assist the parties as best they can.
All right, thank you, sir. Mr. Kurth, how would you handle mental illness in family court?
I think mental illness is a prevalent problem, not only in our family courts, but also in our criminal courts, and they kind of go from one to the other. And a lot of times you'll even see it in this dependency and neglect cases, and you'll see it in the parents that come in and that have problems, and some is related to substance abuse. But I agree, we have to recognize it. As far as the military goes, if we think there's some PTSD or something like that, we need to find out in the beginning, are one of the people appearing before us, were they in the military? Were they recently serving? Are they a member of our armed forces? So we can address that and maybe refer them to the appropriate programs. But we also have to increase programs. We simply don't have enough, and it's always about money and funding, but we definitely don't have enough programs to help the mentally ill. And with family court now, with so many of the litigants being pro per, it's definitely something that you need to consider. And I think I have that experience dealing with these people throughout the years and knowing how it affects them to try to search through that and find that out to help them.
All right, thank you, sir. Ms. Mastin.
I think the issue really becomes how it impacts the case before me, to the extent that it's relevant to the welfare of a child, for example, or the best interest of a child. Then it becomes important, and it becomes something that the court needs to investigate if it's raised by one of the parties, and the court needs to address. The statute allows the court to consider the mental health, the mental well-being of the parents is one of the factors it looks at when considering custody issues. If there's a parent that's mentally well and a parent that's not, then that's one of the things the court can look at and may warrant placing the child in the custody of the other parent. We can't necessarily fix the mental health issues. It's a matter of becoming aware of them or knowing about them. And that's been a significant part of my training as a domestic violence hearing master, and the impact that has on a child living in that environment.
All right, thank you very much. And finally, Ms. McKellar.
Well, in addition to my personal experience that I talked about earlier, I actually have quite a bit of touch with mental health issues because I am a contract attorney with the district attorney office for juvenile delinquency. I deal with mental health issues in children every single day in court. And what we have done in juvenile delinquency, it's not perfect, but we make sure that the child is placed into a situation where they have the correct resources or the appropriate resources, because different mental issues, they need different things. So I think there needs to be more in family court with regards to custody and situations like a bridge between the litigant who has mental illness issues and the help that they may need and how we can get them that help. And me as a judge, I would try to start working on becoming the bridge to some of those programs. There are a lot of programs, access to them is just difficult.
All right, thank you very much. Stick with us. We're going to be right back after a short break with more questions and answers from candidates for Family Court Judge, Department M.
All your listeners and followers, the best name of any podcast in the world is podcast.
Nobody's ever done it. Nobody's ever faked
Not that we
their
know
death.
of.
No.
When you work with Prince, you got to get used to the fact that he changes musicians like underwear. You know, like
Tom Brady. And Tom Brady, he's a quarterback in the Boston area.
I'm not sure who you're talking about.
Welcome back to the Review Journal's Judicial Debate. We're talking with candidates for Family Court Judge, Department M. Our next question goes to Mr. Kurth first. Access to justice is more critical than ever, especially when it comes to the sensitive and very emotionally fraught issues that arise in family court. Please discuss the impact for individuals and the systems when there is a justice gap and what judges can do specifically, if anything, to close that gap.
Access to justice. I think when we think about access to justice a lot, we think about pro bono work and like the one program for everybody to take a pro bono case. And I know that myself in my practice, I represent numerous people at reduced rates or pro bono and have throughout the years. And I think the problem is, as a judge, you need to recognize too that sometimes the judges make decisions because they're saying, hey, how come this person hasn't filed the motion yet? How come they waited to do this or that? And it's because they don't understand. They don't have the access that they need to educate them better. I think if we could do a little bit more of pointing them and in the right direction. I think Nevada Legal Services has done a good job at that, with their programs and their attorneys that they have there. But it's definitely something we need to get out to the public. I think we could improve our self-help center and give them more resources and allow more things to be done there. But we have come a long way with that in helping these improper person litigants.
Sounds good. Thank you very much. Ms. Mastin.
I think the issue of access to justice is something the family court's been trying to address since it opened 20 plus years ago. I think it's been addressed to an extent, and that's one of the reasons we see so many self-represented litigants down there. And that's not to say it doesn't need to be, the efforts don't need to be expanded, they do. But I think from a judicial perspective, one of the things that I try and do is make sure that people who come into court are treated on a level playing field. When one is represented and one is not represented, it's important that the unrepresented party doesn't believe or feel that the other party walking in there with an attorney automatically has an advantage. And you do that by treating them with the same level of respect that the attorney is treated with. I know when I was in private practice, I didn't always feel like both sides were treated fairly. There was some more familiarity sometimes with the other party or other attorney. And it's important that everybody be treated with the same level of respect, that everybody feel equally on a level playing field when they walk in there. That's part of the access to justice movement.
Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate it. Ms. McKellar, your answer to that.
Well, in family court, we represent, and as being a judge in family court, you're ruling over real people in real situations. Most people that are going to be involved in any litigation within their lives are going to end up in family court. That's a statistic. As far as access to justice, we have implemented many programs. I attend Ask a Lawyer on a regular basis. I've taken pro bono cases, and we have programs, but we could all do a little more. As a judge, I would try to influence the attorneys to take on more pro bono work. I would also take my time as a judge to try to mediate cases, as I have mediation experience of other judges, courthouse, to try to reduce caseload, monetary amounts of time that go into it, and assist in that matter. Everybody should have access to justice. I think we do have pretty good programs where we're sitting right now, but we could always do a bit more.
Thank you very much, ma'am. And Mr. Hughes, your answer to that.
In my experience as a hearing master pro tem, I have had a lot of experience with individuals who come in by themselves. Most people do not have the ability to retain counsel to come in and represent them. A judge has to be able to address that with the individual. They still have to meet all the same laws and obligations that an attorney would have to meet, but they obviously don't have that knowledge. The court has been addressing that by providing the self-help center, providing the Ask a Lawyer program and clinics with the law school, anything to assist them in being able to handle their own case. Many of them are quite successful in getting that done with the assistance that the court has been able to provide. It can always use, I'd absolutely be willing to do that. But I am, actually, that's good. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. We'll be right back with more questions and answers from candidates, Family Court, Department M, right after this.
The Vegas Nation podcast is your source for all of your Las Vegas Raiders news. Subscribe and get fast takes and smart coverage. Download the Vegas Nation app and check out vegasnation.com to stay up to date with your Las Vegas Raiders.
For all your Raiders news, like us on Facebook, download the Vegas Nation app, and go to vegasnation.com.
Welcome back to the Review Journal's Judicial Debate. We're talking with candidates for Family Court, Department M. Our next question goes to Ms. Mastin first, and that is this. Domestic violence is an issue that family court judges deal with frequently. What training have you had to deal with domestic violence cases, and how would you balance the rights of visitation with the rights of children and victims to be safe?
Well, I've had 6.5 years of on-the-job training with domestic violence cases. That's been my exclusive focus. And it was important to the district court judges when I took that appointment or accepted that appointment that I be trained with several hours focused on several days worth of domestic violence focused training. It's important to recognize the need to keep victims of domestic violence safe, and it's a difficult balance, but there's all sorts of programs that are exclusively tailored to addressing that very need. Make sure that children can have contact with both parents, maintain a relationship with both parents, heal from the domestic violence that they've witnessed and the impact that it's had on them, and still protect the victim of that domestic violence, the other parent who's been the victim of the domestic violence. It's absolutely possible to do that, but the needs of all parties involved have to be addressed, including the need of that child to maintain a safe relationship with the parent, the perpetrator of the domestic violence.
Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate it. Apologize for interrupting. We're out of time for that answer. Ms. McKellar, your answer.
Well, I have a vast amount of experience on all sides of the board when it comes to domestic violence. Not only do I represent children who have been victims of domestic violence or in those kind of households, but I've also represented perpetrators of domestic violence and additionally victims of domestic violence. I think that as judges, or as me as a judge, you have to rule on the law facts of the case. You have to take the specific facts of what is going on. You have to conduct an evidentiary proceeding before making any kind of rulings regarding what's actually going on, because just as we need to protect the victims of domestic violence, we also have to think about pathogenic parenting and when certain things come up when people are trying to keep a child away. So I think as far as domestic violence goes, it's very important to protect the victims of, but also to look at the facts and circumstances of each case and get and rule in accordance with the law.
Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate it. Mr. Hughes.
I have been an attorney for 23 years, doing family law for 2 decades. I have a wealth of experience regarding domestic violence, both representing individuals who've been accused of domestic violence in family court, as well as victims. And always, I think the court needs to be focused on the children and how it affects them, as well as dealing with the issues that relate to the domestic violence itself. The children are the biggest victims in a domestic violence situation. Whether it occurs in front of them or not, they know about it and it affects them. And very much so, I'd like to be able to address those things and you have to address exchanges, you have to address the way they communicate with each other. And the court is set up to be able to handle those in family court.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. And Mr. Kurth, your answer to that.
In my 28 years doing this, I've seen that the burden of proof to prove domestic violence is very low. Once that's proven and it's in effect, then you have this stay away order that no one can violate, or if they violate it, now they have a criminal case against them too. Sometimes the parents think they can withhold the children because of that, but you cannot do that. And if you're in that situation, you need to set up an appropriate time and place and manner for the exchange of the children. If you need to do a supervised visitation, something I think we need to do is work a little bit more on that. See if we can add another, some more services other than just Donna's house, and make sure that those children are still seeing the other parent, as long as those children are in a protective environment, because domestic violence does affect them when they're around it. But if that parent is not doing that domestic violence to that child, the parent needs to be able to see the child in some capacity.
We'll be right back with closing statements for all of our candidates in Family Court, District M. Welcome back to the Review Journal's Judicial Debates. We're talking with candidates for Family Court Department M. We've come to the end of our debate, where candidates will have 30 seconds to make closing statements. We're going to go in reverse alphabetical order with Ms. McKellar first.
I really care about this community. I've lived here for a very long time and what's going on right now. And, I want to talk about it for my 30 seconds because it's going to be important when we take the bench. There's going to be a lot of work to be done. I am a very hard worker. I always have been. I have the experience and the knowledge and the ability for this job, and I am ready for this job. As far as anything else, I have to say, stay home, Nevada. Everybody be safe, wash your hands, and we're all going to get through this.
Thank you, ma'am. We appreciate it. Ms. Mastin.
I am Amy Mastin. My law has been spent in family court fighting on behalf of Clark County families. I'm seeking to be elected to Family Court Department M. I appreciate your vote. 2 of us will make it out of the primary. The primary circumstances are different than they were before. You have a mail-in ballot. I'm asking for your vote. Amy Mastin, Department M. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, ma'am. We appreciate it. Mr. Kurth, your closing statement for 30 seconds.
I'm Robert Kurth, and I'm running for Family Court Judge because I care about our community and the place my family calls home. If you want a judge in this department who will listen to your concerns, who will respect your rights, who will protect our families, who will enforce the Constitution, who will not legislate from the bench, and who will act in the best interest of our children, please vote for me, Robert Kurth, because families matter. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it, sir. Thank you very much. And Mr. Hughes, your closing statement.
Thank you very much. Again, my name is Lynn Hughes, and I am running for Department M, Family Court Judge. I believe that the experience matters. I am not a general practice lawyer. I haven't been doing criminal or all the other things. I have been focused on family. I have the judicial experience of being a pro tem for the last 18 years. I believe I am the best candidate for this position, and I do ask for your vote. Thank you very much.
With all the news on the 2020 election on our website at reviewjournal.com. Join us again as we interview more candidates for the bench. For the Las Vegas Review Journal, I'm Steve Sebelius.